There's the man.
Hey, Jackson, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, James Lang. I'm excited to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. I really like what you do. You know, taking actionable insights and real stories and kind of passing them on to those following in our footsteps, right?
The bromance is strong. Where are you based out of, James?
So I'm in Denver. Yeah, but I was in Scottsdale, then LA before that. So, but Denver today.
Scottsdale, LA, Denver today. Very good. Was that just a
Yeah.
trip, or did you mean you were stationed, or I'm from the
Yeah, no, I was
military, so
based
you
in
can't
LA,
tell.
then Scottsdale, and now Denver. So,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
just move around a bunch, but you follow the dollars, follow the opportunity, and
Yeah.
certainly tax-wise, moving from LA to Scottsdale was
Yeah.
nice.
No, I love visiting LA. I love visiting. It's fun.
Yeah,
Just
I love
visiting.
getting to LA almost as much as I
Yeah.
like leaving. Yes.
That's right. So I'm down in Ecuador actually. So
Oh,
it's
you see,
it's
you're the
the best
smart guy on this call
opportunity
because
there.
you're doing the expat life where you're saving a ton of
That's-
money.
Well, that too. That's also for sure a big part of it. If you're okay with it, I'll share my vision real quick.
Yeah, of
And then we'll
course.
we'll switch gears and dive into yours. I'm excited to talk about AI. Also, by the way, since we've already no hold bars like started the conversation, if we want to, we can use this entire thing as an episode because it just turned out organically to be awesome. And if we decide we want to cut it, then we can cut too. So either way,
Yeah, it's your show, man. Whatever you think your
love it.
audience appreciates the most.
I love that. It's my show, but it's your vision. And so we also always share that with the visionaries that we have. It's not my vision, it's yours. So we always want to honor that. But yeah, James. So my vision is to bridge the economic gap between North America, South America, and rest of the world. That's what I live for every day. And so I'm down here in the southern part of Americas, and doing what I can to help people and bring that dream to reality. If I make even one small impact on it, fantastic. But every day I get to just be my best and show up and try to commit to helping with that. So
So, what does that look like? Like, help me
it's a
unpack
great
that.
question, man. In 10, 15, 20 years, it might be lobbying to governments worldwide. As of right now, it's first class business. We help entrepreneurs with sustainable revenue growth. And then we have a program called Oportunidades de Trabajo para Latinos. That's opportunities for work for Latinos. And we've got a Spanish show. I actually just got off the Spanish show as well, but I have a couple of counterparts who are from Colombia and Peru, and they're co-hosts with me of the Spanish show. And we interview Latinos about how did they find their first job, or how did they find their current opportunity, what work did they put in for that, what programs did they train in, and then we promote those episodes to help other Latinos jump into the program. And we give those services away for free, helping Latinos learn leadership skills and develop. Oh, there's my bell that says it's time to take my antibiotics, because even though I enjoy being here, my stomach doesn't always enjoy
Oh,
being here.
I've had Montezuma's Revenge before. I've been there. That was
Oh, you know
terrible.
it. You
Hmm.
know it. Yeah, I live with Montezuma often. So
Yeah,
him
I
and I
got
are
laid up
good
in
buddies at this
Cabo
point.
for about 3 days straight, past the time that I was gonna fly home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an
Oh,
experience.
you know it. You know it then. So James, yes, AI. I'm not going to steal the show from you, but my audience knows a little bit about what we do and how we do it. So
Sure.
I just want to say congrats on what you're building, because I saw the playground. And I was
Nice.
like, oh, cool. This guy gets it. And the AI craze. I love how you point out too that there's a wave for AI that you can ride, you can get crushed by, and that was really smart. And then I went to the playground and I wanted to move forward, but I saw the little memo that you don't have to like log in, and then that one still has like the login thing. But we're building something similar at First Class Business, and I called it Alfred.
Okay.
Meet Alfred, the butler of we're into heroes and all that. So the butler for
Yeah.
Superman, and then we built Mr. Fox as well. We built both those characters, and we still haven't released it though. So you're ahead of me. Praise to you. Like, good job on moving it forward and getting things out there. But I mean, if you want to, we can just dive right in and start talking about vision. But do you have any other questions for me before we do?
No, it seems like you're super kind and generous, so I appreciate it. It creates a great space for a conversation.
Yeah, man. Well, good. Then tell me about your AI vision for now. Let's start there, and then we can expand into other visions.
Yeah, well, let me tell you how we got here on the AI side of things.
Yeah.
So, and there's a whole bunch more to the story we can unpack later, but just kind of the
Yeah.
condensed version from somebody who likes to talk too much. Uh, about 6 months ago, one of my buddies that I grew up with in Virginia Beach, in Virginia, his name's Jeff. After I moved to Denver, I realized Jeff lives out here too. So we had gone, our own paths, our own ways after high school. But I was doing the e-commerce operational consulting, uh, you know, med tech world, highly regulated, pain in the butt
Mhm.
stuff in the men's wellness space. And then that same time, he was doing the AI and big data thing back in like 2014, like before it was cool. So he now works for one of the
Yep.
largest data solutions for all the insurance companies here in the United States because you're fortunate you don't have to you have to deal with some stomach illnesses. It sounds like dealing with the local water there in Ecuador, but we have to deal with the
Just
health
don't deal
insurance
with it.
industry, which
Just
is just
don't deal with the local
yeah,
water.
yeah, yeah. You have the option of not drinking the local water. See, we don't have the option of not engaging with the insurance industry here. So you're one up on me on that one. But
True.
anyways, his background primarily is storing the petabytes of insurance information, processing claims, doing actuarial analysis, all that stuff, right? So we're catching up and like swapping war stories and realizing that just like I knew back in high school, he's definitely smarter than me. But I was like unpacking, like, okay, cool. Like you have this, this AI and big data skill set, but coming at it from a marketer and an operations guy, one of the most popular things is these quiz funnels. So if you're trying to sell a product online, you ask the client or the customer 4 or 5 questions just to qualify them and get to know them, and then get their email
Yep.
address. Now you have information, plus you can hit up their email without having to pay to reach them again. And I was like, the problem is we have the goldfish attention span, which means that
Yes.
within 5 seconds people are jumping. So we can't go really beyond 5 questions in a quiz funnel. But wouldn't it be cool if we had AI to be able to have conversations around the questions? So you're still doing
Mhm.
the 5 stage quiz, but if you have a question about the question or something totally random that you want to ask, you can do that all in the same place without having to leave and go search somewhere else. And anyways, that was kind of our brainchild moment. And he's like, "Yeah, we can totally build that." So we build out this kind of prototype. And the problem
Nice.
is, we run through the first data set, and just the compute to run that data set and the testing, it was $800 in compute. And that's what people aren't really talking about with AI, right? Is it's so expensive to
Right.
operate. Most computers can't handle it. Like you could install an AI system or model and with Python and the infrastructure there, you can do it, but good luck getting it to run unless you have like a really high end graphics card, and maybe even that's not enough in some cases. So the
Right.
result is what we're asking all these cloud systems to do is so resource intensive, that it's become expensive to be able to share that. And so as things get more expensive to operate, they become more expensive for the consumer. And so a lot of us, like if we're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, or Copilot, we're
Mhm.
all kind of insulated from those costs. Like all we see is just, hey, this is
Right.
kind of fun to play with. But what we
Right,
don't
like
realize
Google
is
was.
happening. Yeah,
But, like,
exactly.
this is
But
cool. Oh, I gotta pause real quick. Audience, we have, like, a guy who actually understands AI talking about AI for the first no, I shouldn't say the first time ever, but you're different mode. Like, you really get the behind the scenes stuff on AI, and, everybody's claiming they're an AI guru these days. And so it's fun to talk to somebody who understands, like, the nuts and bolts behind it to a degree. So, cool, good on you, man. Keep going.
oh well, you've pushed one of my biggest pet peeves, which is all of these guys on LinkedIn running around saying I'm an expert on AI, and last week they were expert on blockchain, and the week before that they were an
Well, yeah,
expert
but I
on
was already
residential.
I was trained by the coach of 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 the coach. Like, I get this should make me an expert, right? So, yeah, no,
Exactly.
I'll put a little pin in that because there's two sides to that are polarizing opposites, and there's a whole middle ground that I really appreciate too. But Matt Cutts, the search director of Google, was one of our first investors at the very first startup that I worked
Nice.
at, on local, and I was the first sales rep hired. And we were an SEO company, and so he immediately put a big pin in that. And he's like, guys, you cannot claim we're the SEO gods just because I work with you guys.
Right.
Like, but here's what you can do. He said, the real sign of an expert is not somebody who knows it all. A true expert is a person who's willing to go get the right answer. That's it. Just that simple. And so I loved that because I had no degree and I had no background whatsoever in what we were doing. But I was like, oh, I can be humble enough to admit I don't know and I can go get an answer. And that's what he taught was if you want to be an expert, that's what you do. You just go get the right answer. And so I don't hate on the AI self-proclaimed, okay, maybe the gurus, yes, but the
Yeah,
ones
I
who are
do.
trying to
Sign me
get
up for that
out
program.
like that's cool. But I love that you understand the realities. I was reading about ChatGPT this week and how they're not going to be, they have a very small chance of being profitable by 2035.
Mhm.
But the amount of debt and the amount of money being dumped into this, you're right. As a consumer, we don't have to pay attention to that at all. We just get to drink the Kool-Aid. We just get to use what it is. But and then perhaps maybe this doesn't help all visionaries out there. Most of us aren't going to benefit from knowing the ins and outs of all the back end of AI. But it is really
I don't
reassuring.
know.
Okay. Well, it's reassuring to talk to somebody who gets it. So go ahead, man. I'll let you hit on that for sure.
Gosh, there's so many things that you just brought up that you're hitting all my like, main themes and points and things. So I love it. So uh okay, well, let's talk about why it matters. So going along with the
Yeah.
example I gave, right, where it costs us $800 to run one computer.
Whew.
And then we talk about one, the consumer being insulated so they don't understand the cost. Well, for businesses, they're insulated too. There's AI startups all over the place that are offering these off the shelf solutions that promise to do all these amazing things. And there's a whole bunch of things we could unpack there. But the biggest thing that's relevant to what you just said is the problem is these startups, they have enough capital to get their plane going down the runway, but they probably don't have enough capital to keep their AWS bill paid, as they scale, unless they raise more money. So you,
Right.
as a business owner, if you're putting your information into this system, if you're relying on these tools,
Right.
number one, where is the data stored? Do you own it? And number two, if suddenly a switch is flipped tomorrow and that company's out of business, how screwed are you?
Right.
And a lot of people aren't thinking about that. And it's not going to be up to that other business. It's going to be when, AWS or Microsoft or Google says, you know what, your bill's past due. It's, we can't float you anymore. And they're not able to raise investor funding for whatever reason. So it's a real
Yep.
danger. It's a real liability that people aren't really talking about. And for us, that $800 compute bill, that was what kind of shut us down for a second, because it was like, yeah, we can go build this, but it's going to be too expensive to scale. So, me being the dumb guy in the room, I'm just like, hey, Jeff, I'm going to lock you in a room for a little bit, go fix it. And so, basically that's what we did. We bounced ideas back and forth, and, he actually made it work, but, I was able to bring kind of the user interface and the UX side of things.
Cool.
So, it's really great working with someone who has such a deep level of knowledge in an area that you suck at. It's the best in the world. So,
Yes.
anyways, he was able to. It took us about 6 months, and primarily by us, I mean him. 6 months to really get something created that solved this problem. But what we did, and again, we as Jeff, but we built out this this virtual cloud infrastructure inside of AWS that has both the option to data vector in a way that AI can more easily ingest information, but also adjust. So you have, in a system like this, you have an AI model, but that AI model is running in an engine. And so you have kind of what's called a wrapper around the engine, which is the thing that kind of filters it out. So when you're talking about, like when you're talking to ChatGPT, the thing that keeps it from telling you bad things or going outside of its guardrails, part of that is in the wrapper that's around the engine. So it's like a filter, which again, the engine is being fueled by the AI model. Does that kind of make sense? Is that fair?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
I mean, it makes sense for those of us who understood the words that you put together. But I understand the importance though of making sure that we're aware of the infrastructure, we're aware of the liabilities that we have with facing AIs, and I'm really grateful that my business is not predominantly heavy on AI itself, because yeah, that would be a nasty disaster if one of the businesses,
Yeah.
if you built on the backbone of it and then it went up in flames, it's like, oh, what do you do now if that's where the diversification or that's where your income is coming from? So well said, James. Keep going.
Yeah, so I mentioned a moment ago that the challenge is, the cost to scale, right? But and I also talked about how you can install AI on your computer and try to run it or run a model. A lot of people don't realize that there's,
Yeah.
hundreds of AI models, LLMs, out there floating around on the web that you can download, and if you're tech savvy enough, you can install them. So,
Mhm.
out of all those models floating on the web, we found 12 that we really about a dozen, maybe a little more now, that we like for different tasks and different things. So the cool thing
Cool.
about the solution we built is we can plug and play those dozens of those dozen models into the AI engine based
Mhm.
on what task we're trying to accomplish. And the same goes for the data vectoring. We can change the formatting a little bit based on the task we're trying to accomplish. So the end result of that is
Fascinating.
that $800 compute bill goes down to about $4. So it's a huge difference. And this
Yeah.
isn't something that's like, nobody ever thought of how to do this before. But the difference is small and medium-sized businesses have never had access to this before. So that's
Right.
what, to my knowledge, unless they're spending a lot of money, because what all the Fortune 500s are doing,
Yeah.
they have their own internal teams that are building out their own custom solutions from the ground up. And companies, the
Nobody
average
even knows
company
that.
out there doesn't have access to that.
No, we don't have access. We don't have knowledge. We don't have time as small business
Yeah.
owners either. And it's, it reminds me of, in a very loose way, of the podcasting world, and how with the podcasting world, a lot of businesses don't know, like, okay, you can have your own studio in your office now and control your own
Mhm.
media output. And LeBron James and JJ Redick caught on to that just last, 2 years ago when they launched Mind the Game. And it gave LeBron the chance to finally talk about the narrative of how the game
Mm.
went outside of the controlled media's manipulative questions, where they
Right.
biased him into like, oh, you made this decision. And, it's like the question when you're a kid asking your friend, I'm going to be completely politically incorrect here, but it's like when you say, how long have you been gay for? It's like, what, like d- how do you even
That's
answer a question
not
like
how
that?
that
You
works.
know,
Or how long is a
and
string, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so those types of questions, if we can control our narratives from a PR media standpoint, now we have entire media outlets in our offices if we choose to build them out. And so you're talking about having the same type of access to knowledge where the knowledge can empower us to be able to have better solutions for us. And I'm glad you're building it out, because most of us don't want to build it out. We want to find the people like James, who's, you claim not to be the smart guy, but you're like the perfect type of dumb guy. In that
Yeah.
case,
That's
you're the one who
exactly it.
finds the smart
My
guys in it.
superpower
Me and
is I'm
you,
the
man.
dumbest guy in the room, and I ask the right questions, and then I get out of the way while the smart people figure it out.
And you're genius enough to learn how to interpret it. Right. So I got to give you the credit on that. I'm gonna give you the flowers you don't want. But and it's, I've always been a big collaborator, James. And so in high school, they called this cheating. And I'm going to shamelessly say that, I'm not quite repentant about it. I do feel a little bit awkward about announcing, but like I was there in biology class and I got the top grade on the test. Right. And so my friend's like, what? He cheated off of the, so and she's like, Paul, don't be jealous. And I go, Paul, don't be jealous. And what I was doing was I would ask Paul, and then once they figured out, I'd be like, what'd you guys get on this? And they gave me the answer. And then if they were confused, I went to the next group over and I was like, hey, what about you guys? How are you guys doing? Oh, okay. So I just went back and forth collecting answers on
Right,
the
of
test,
course.
and it worked out well. So collaborating is something that in the world of entrepreneurship visionaries, we cherish. It's like pass notes back and forth, use people's formulas, let people use your formulas, grow together. So James, one of the things that you have on your site is it's about customer support. And
Mhm.
that's obviously a huge area where Wells Fargo has brutally ruined their customer support, as has USAA. I'll call out my
And
favorite bank.
Verizon. And
Just
Verizon.
terrible, like their
Mhm.
implementation. So it's one of those things where I think most of us are hesitant to even bother looking at until it's just like so stupid simple that it gets developed. But how what's one or two simple things that a small business can do in order to perhaps implement AI from a support standpoint, or start looking at how do I even go about finding the right people to talk to about it?
Well, the first thing that someone who's truly an expert in AI, and I don't claim to be one. I claim to play one on podcasts, but the reality is, if the person that's going to give you the solution is telling you that AI can do everything, they're full of shit.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with
In
you on that.
fact, a real expert will tell you AI can't do this, this, and this, but it can do this really well.
Mhm.
You know, you use customer service examples in the legal field. This is becoming a thing as well. You have so many people taking AI generated slop into court, including lawyers, filing things and getting censured by the courts because it's like, really, you know, you didn't sit there and fact check any of this. And I could talk
Right.
for hours on that, but I won't bore you. So, anyways, the place that companies need to go, if you're looking for, people think of AI and they think of customer support. And yeah, okay, cool. AI is no different than like just think of. I think we should define AI a little bit better for the purpose of this
Sure.
conversation. So, I think of AI more as something that reduces the distance between the average human being and the silicone running the software, right? So you don't need to go through design iterations with a designer and then get to have the designer go to the coders and then the coders go to the UX people and then, you know, build out this whole thing. You
Mhm.
literally tell AI, if you treat AI, whatever flavor of AI you're dealing with, as an ass kissing employee, it's going to give you what you want, right? And so,
Yes.
one little tidbit I'll give you, when I do prompting in ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, I always start out by telling the AI what it is because it's a blank slate, right? So, for
Mhm.
example, my dad's website, which is, you know, I'll plug it here if you'll let me, but you know,
Sure.
I help out his law firm, which is waterfrontpropertylaw.com, which is a really
Bleep. Just
interesting,
kidding.
yeah.
Waterfrontpropertylaw.com. Got
There
it.
you go. So it's an interesting area of the law because riparian rights in America go all the way back to colonial times. Like the king granted land to people, and then where did the land go from there? And did the water move and all that stuff? It's really fascinating if you're a dork like me. But anyways, when I
Yeah.
was producing content for his site, um, the AI would reference all these legal cases. Some of them were real, and many of them weren't, and almost none of the descriptions were accurate of the cases. So thank God he reviews anything before I post anything on his site to help him out. You
Yes.
know, and we caught it, but you know, these are examples of where AI is failing constantly. But again, I
Yes.
go back to, it's simply democratizing technology. It's allowing people to code without having to learn how to code. And
Yep.
so if you can learn how to prompt, and sorry, I get going on tangents, but going back to my
You're good.
prompting. So in that legal example for the law firm site, I would say you're an expert on waterfront law in the state of Virginia, and you've worked as an attorney for 20 plus years. So I'm telling it what it is. And then I'm
Yep.
saying what I need from you is a blog article. It's about 500 words that's keyword optimized based on this brief, based on this information that I've attached to the prompt. And then at the end, I'm saying the content should be about 500 pages, should include a featured image, should be easily scannable. So when I'm reading it, so in the end, that prompt has three parts to it. The first part is, who are you? The second part is, what are you producing? And the third part is, what does the final product look like? And if you give
Yep.
that three-part formula in your prompting, you're going to get a lot more out of AI than you would otherwise. But it's also kind of funny to me that this perfectly rhymes with what I did as a chief operating officer and dealing with a 60 person team and trying to get the most out of our team members and, you know, coordinating all of the back and forth between the different departments and making sure the trains ran on time, but also the shareholder and the CEO's vision was executed properly. Um, you know, if you set people up for success, they'll deliver what you want more easily, which helps you
Okay.
succeed. So all of this kind of comes full circle into AI as an ass kissing employee. And if you treat it like one, you're going to
Yes.
get good results. It's a thought partner, not a thought leader.
Oh, I love that. I love that you said that. And then way to mic drop it at the end there. With the thought partner, not a thought leader. It's huge. And I look at it kind of like a teenager, you know, who's really, really like a prodigy. Right. They've got all this wisdom that they can use for good and for bad. You know, and they can also manipulate and change wisdom to get creative on its own. And so we have this superpower at our disposal in our hands that we can utilize, but we've also got to have the comprehensive analysis skills on our end,
Mhm.
of the old school journalist, a journalist that's willing to fact check, like you said, a journalist that's willing to do the nitty gritty details to figure out what's there. Cause it can royally hurt anybody very, very fast. And that's going to get to a whole new level here in a couple of years when Tesla robots, are walking around everywhere, and other robots out there are starting to implement this. But I hope that the world gets ahead of the types of challenges. Like, go quick, get me a hot chocolate at Starbucks as fast as you can. And boom, it runs through the wall. And boom, it runs over and crushes the neighbor's dog in the process. It runs through the wall at Starbucks, grabs a coffee, steals it, brings it all the way back to me. There's so many tragedies that could happen along the way where it doesn't have a conscience. Of like, oh, there's painful realities and threats that exist for human beings that don't exist for me as a robot entity that can't feel any of that. So anyway, I just took us down a whole another rabbit hole.
No,
That
you didn't
James,
actually.
I love
It
for you to
wasn't a
come back,
different rabbit
man.
hole, actually. No, it's
Well,
all tied in, right? So
it's
here's
different,
another
but
mic drop for you based on what you just
go
said.
ahead.
So,
I know we're out of time, so I want to make sure that
oh,
you get the opportunity to do the power mic drop on this. So let's do that. And man, I'm just going to beg you right now. Will you come back, please? Will you please come
absolutely.
back?
Yeah, and
I
I'm
would love
happy to stay on
to.
for a few extra minutes if that's helpful too. Either whatever works
I
for you.
I got to wrap up a little sooner than I
No
want to.
worries. No
But
sweat.
on that note, though, power mic drop. James, hit it. What you got?
Well, you have to remember that AI does not know the difference between Hitler and Mickey Mouse. They're just
Mm,
different pieces of data. So that's to go speaks to what you're talking about, the robot
it's
going through the wall.
narcissistic. Ooh, it's narcissistic in
Maybe.
essence. I'm teasing a bit, but John Gottman Institute would tell me, no, Jackson, that's not how narcissism works. But well said. It doesn't know, and we have the opportunities, right, to figure out, well, how do we train it, and then in the things that we can't train it, how do we accept that reality? In fact, from my favorite business book, one of my favorite business books, Dr. Peter Drucker's The Effective Executive. Effective executives or strong, tremendous leaders always come with tremendous weaknesses. Always,
Mm.
where there are peaks, there are valleys, and that still applies to the AI world as well. And so, my friends, if you're looking for help with the AI revolution, I know we talked very deep level and very high level today. We didn't dive into specifics, but you can always go check out overling.com and see what James is up to. I'm going to continue to do that. I can't wait to dive into the playground a little bit further and see what's there, because it is important that we protect our brands, but it's also important that we recognize there's a massive wave that we can ride right now. And I don't think there's been a better opportunity for people to step up in life all over the world and say, you know what, I'm going to take full control over my destiny here, and I'm going to change my life with this, and doing this with the best type of leaders possible who can teach you how to surf the wave, like Kelly Slater style. Yeah, man, let's go. So James, thanks for being here. Vision Pros, we will see you guys all on the next episode. Take care, everybody. Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.